GamingBolt presents 15 bosses that will never be defeated without a hidden trick. Ever encountered a boss that you couldn't beat by thwacking, slashing, or shooting it a bunch? Did you ever need a eureka moment or the aid from some little trick to properly vanquish a foe for good? Such boss fights are more common than you'd think, so let's take a look at 15 bosses that you'll never beat without a hidden trick or two. Fool's Idol, Demon Souls. Generally considered one of the easier bosses in Demon Souls, the Fool's Idol has her fair share of tricks. She's surrounded by prisoners and can create fake clones to throw you off. While the trick to beating her is to identify the right idol, there is one more wrinkle to take care of. There's actually a prisoner who will keep healing the boss, so it's best to find and kill him beforehand before taking on the boss. Mr. Freeze, Batman Arkham City. Perhaps the best designed boss fight in the entire Batman Arkham series, Mr. Freeze can be hurt pretty easily when the fight begins. Execute a stealth takedown or a beatdown and voila! However, each method used to hurt him sees Freeze deploy a counter so it won't work the next time. To truly bring him down, you need to execute 4 different kinds of takedowns, relying on environmental hazards and Batman's own techniques in the process. New Game Plus is even more brutal in this respect because of the 12 methods used to damage him. At least 11 are needed to assure victory. Shadow Queen, Eiko. When you've come upon the final boss of Eiko, and no, we don't mean the perils of escorting Yorda, you'll be puzzled by how easily she can kill you. As you'd probably guess, there is a trick to beating the Shadow Queen. You'll have to attack her spirit sword to weaken her shield and then use statues to move around and retrieve the sword once it's been knocked away. Repeat as necessary to eventually win. Hela, Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice. Senua's journey in Hellblade culminates in a massive fight with Hela, where not only do the game's previous bosses reappear, but there are numerous copies of them. That's not including all of the regular enemies as well, but hey, Senua does awesome amounts of damage, so what's the problem? Well, you have to stop fighting and eventually give in, or the battle will go on forever and Hela will never lose. Of course, there's a twist to all of this, but we won't spoil it. Jack Baker, Second Fight, Resident Evil 7. The second fight with Jack Baker in Resident Evil 7, which involves battling him with a chainsaw, revolves around destroying a pillar in the middle of the room. Sure, you'll dole out enough damage and eventually ruin his entire upper torso, which doesn't kill him permanently, by the way, but as long as the pillar is standing, the fight will continue. Just remember to maneuver Jack into damaging and destroying it whenever you can. Bed of Chaos, Dark Souls. Say hello to one of the most annoying bosses in the original Dark Souls. The Bed of Chaos seems fairly easy. It dies in one hit after all, destroying the orbs on either side of it to expose said weak spot. However, as you do this, the Bed of Chaos reacts violently. The floor begins to crumble and roots appear to knock you off into the abyss as some fancy platforming is required to succeed. As it turns out, platforming is the true endgame of Dark Souls. Who would have guessed? LeChuck, Monkey Island 2. LeChuck and Guybrush have had some of the most epic encounters in gaming, literally bending reality with their exploits. The trick to beating LeChuck in LeChuck's Revenge is actually what you'd expect, strange and altogether awesome. Simply create a voodoo doll of LeChuck, use it against him, and voila, no more LeChuck. Until the sequel, of course. Burner Man, Mega Man 8. Burner Man presents a bit of a quandary to longtime Mega Man players, since all attempts to damage him are piddly at best. Even the ice wall, which should be his weakness, doesn't seem to have much effect. As it turns out, you have to push the ice wall into him, causing him to be pushed back into the spikes in the arena. Dark Samus, Metroid Prime 2. As one of the most irritating fights in the series, Dark Samus is annoying enough in the beginning. However, her final phase involves absorbing Phazon energy and redirecting it back to damage her. Some Phazon energy is too large and can't be absorbed, so you have to pay attention to her shield to know when the actual absorbable bullets are coming. The Sorrow, Metal Gear Solid 3. The boss fight against the Sorrow can only be cleared by taking the revival pill. Yes, when you're in the afterlife, you still have access to a pill that will revive you. Never mind that it's actually meant to counteract the effects of the fake death pill instead of curing death completely. Just go with it. The Den Mother, Psychonauts. The Den Mother in Psychonauts is a rather interesting boss because she doesn't really become unbeatable until the lights go out. Not being able to see her means you can't hurt her. However, using an ability gained earlier in the level, you can actually see through her eyes and attack her. It's an interesting twist requiring the player to actually guide the character while sort of spectating him at the same time. GIYGAS, Earthbound. GIYGAS is pretty much your boss in Earthbound. However, he can be weakened and eventually brought to ruin. He won't die though. What do you need to actually finish him? Why, the pray command, of course, though you wouldn't immediately guess it because it pretty much does nothing for the entire game. The Serpent, Golden Sun: The Lost Age. In Golden Sun: The Lost Age, it's possible to inflict some damage onto the Serpent. Granted, it's fairly strong and will hit back hard, but you can still fight it. The problem is that it will continuously regain obscene amounts of health, thus ensuring you'll never make enough progress to actually kill it. However, solve a particular puzzle in the dungeon, which involves climbing the mountain, housing the Serpent, and directing beams of light to reduce its regeneration to nearly nothing, and victory should be assured. Psycho Mantis, Metal Gear Solid. The very epitome of a puzzle boss. Psycho Mantis in the original Metal Gear Solid couldn't be defeated unless you plugged your controller into the second PS1 slot. Heck, the fight wouldn't even begin unless you did this with Mantis trapping you in an endless conversation. There is a way to initiate the boss fight without changing controller ports by calling Colonel Campbell, but as it stands, the best method is to simply switch ports. The Colossi, Shadow of the Colossus. Did we say Psycho Mantis was the epitome of a boss that can't die without using a simple trick? Because Shadow of the Colossus has numbers on its side. Each boss or Colossus in this game can only be felled by attacking specific weak points. How you expose those weak points, assault the boss, like bringing flying bosses down to your level, survive their attacks, or even track them down requires some trickery. And that'll be about it for this one. If you guys like what we're doing at GamingBolt, please consider subscribing to our channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.